Hello my bunnies, it's Tiki Strinkus here, and today I have for y'all another polymer clay tutorial. Today I'm finally going to be finishing up one of my collections from last year that I didn't get to finish, which was the second set for the Showdown Bandit characters. I had completed Penny Hemsworth, which you can go watch that video on my channel too. Just look for the playlist, the Showdown Bandit. And I also did the Banker character as well. I finished both of them, but I also stated in my Etsy listing that the, sorry my hair's bugging me, the Doctor was on pre-order, Dr. Carver or Doc Carver, and I never got around to finishing him because of requests and other stuff that I wanted to do. So today I finally got him finished, and I think my bangs are killing me. That's what I think. I think it's time for a haircut. And I think he just came out so daggone good. Let me not drop him, because then I'm going to be upset. Look at the detailing. Look at the details that I managed. Let's just focus on him and not my face. That I managed to get into him. The buttons, the stains, the tethered up clothing. Everything about him. His hairline. The pose he's in is similar to like in the game, where he has his hand inside of his apron most of the time. But I did make the pocket on that side. I should have put the hand that was up near the apron, but oh well, what you gonna do? Oh, now we're not focused on me at all. Now it's dark. There we go. Back to the light. And I just think he came out so good, and he just looks so perfect when you put him next to the rest of them. Oh, I'm so happy. I want to take a group photo with the Bandit, Miss Undertaker. My gosh, I can't remember everybody I did. And the Bullseye puppet, I did one of the villains too. I want to take like a group photo of all of them together. Anyways, I'm rambling on. So happy to finally get this finished. I've been dying to finish it. There's still 2 more sets on my desk that you cannot see from here that I haven't finished the sets for, but that I have to wait. And I'm sorry if you hear dinging. My phone is getting a notification. Hopefully you can't actually hear that on video. I don't know. We'll find that out. Again, this wasn't a request by anybody. This is just something I wanted to complete. And the other ones I'll get around to finishing later, but not next week. Next week will be I don't know if I want to say it, another one of my brand-inspired creatures. It will be inspired, another creature. I won't say what kind of creature. It's not going to be a dragon. Let's just give you a little memory boost. Here's the Cheeto dragon called Puffs that I forgot to put on my Etsy shop, which I'm doing that tonight. But I'm going to do another creature this week inspired by another type of chip. I'm not going to say what kind of chip or what kind of creature. I'll let that be a surprise. It's 3 minutes and I'm still talking, so I'm done. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And stay tuned on my channel for more videos by me and sometimes by my sister. Love you guys very much. Bye-bye, my bunnies. For this tutorial, you're going to need black, red, white, orange, and tan colored. And I just used the basic colors, not like plum orange or something like that, just basic black, red, orange, white, and tan. First, I'm going to start by pre-rolling most of the balls that I would need. I'm not going to roll the piece for the glasses or the mustache right now because they're so small and delicate, but we'll do that later. We're going to start with this ball right here. This is going to be his bottom. And you're going to roll this into a chunky teardrop shape, and then to make it flat on the bottom, just kind of press it against the work surface. After you've done that, then you can cut it in half so that it'll be flat on the bottom and flat on the top. Then flip it over and stick a toothpick into it. Easy, right? Next we're going to do his torso, so we're going to get this ball right here. Sorry, allergies are getting to me again. Then we're going to roll it into a long teardrop shape with a very blurry photo. My camera was not wanting to work with me on this tutorial. There's going to be some blurry photos. Then cut off the top and the bottom, only keeping about a little more than an inch. It's not even an inch and a half, just a little more than an inch. And I actually cut a little bit of this off, so, you know, do it as you need to. Then I took my long blade and indented a line on it to make the closing part of his jacket. If you need to, pull up a picture of him for reference as you're working. Next, we're going to go on to these 2 balls right here for his legs. So you're going to roll these into long teardrop shapes. They're also a little over an inch in length. And then you're going to cut the tops off, and then you're going to cut the bottoms off at a bias. The bias angle pieces, you're going to stick that to the bottom of the sculpture, like so. And make sure that if you're using a base, that it sits on the base nice and evenly and not hanging off too much. Next, we're going to go on to these balls. These are going to be his shoes. So you're going to make these into teardrop shapes and just press them down so they'll be kind of flat. These actually ended up being a little too big, so I did make them a little bit smaller off camera. I took them back to a little bit over a half an inch, more like an eighth of an inch. I'm not sure exactly what the measurement was, but smaller than an inch. Now wash your hands and move on to the orange color. And we only need 2 balls. This part's really easy. The top part of his collar, you're just going to take the small ball and press it flat. And then after you do that, just stick it onto the toothpick right above the torso. This will kind of be where his neck is at. Just like that. Easy. The other ball is pretty easy too. You're just going to roll it into a teardrop shape, like so. Then using your finger, press it down gently so it'll be kind of flat, and it should look something like this once you're done. Then once you've done that, you're going to cut about half of this off near the pointed end, so it should look something like this. Then where the piece is flat, you're just going to stick it on the top part of his collar so that they meet and kind of make like a little ascot kind of deal, just like this. And then we're done with the orange, so wash your hands, and now we're going on to red, which gets on everything, so be careful while you're using the red color. We're going to roll out 1 ball, and that's all we need, because this is just going to be his collar. We will come back to the orange later, but that'll be for the glasses, so we're not going to talk about that now. The red, you're just going to roll it out nice and flat, then cut it in half, and then cut both of these pieces into elongated triangles. They kind of look like, I think this is an isosceles triangle, if I'm not mistaken. My geometry is failing me right now. I've been out of high school for a while now. Put one piece on the left-hand side first, and then put the right piece on top of it so it overlaps just a little. And then just meet them around back on the back of his neck. Now, wash your hands, and we're going on to the white. I say wash your hands because if you don't, the colors will bleed onto each other and it'll get messy. Next, we're going to go on to the white, and we're going to pre-roll the balls that we need for his arms. So you need 2 and 2. We're going to start with the bottom 2, roll them into teardrop shapes. And then what I did was I went on ahead and cut these almost in half, about in half, yeah, pretty much in half. Then I'm going to just keep the rounded pieces, the other 2 pointed pieces, put back in the pack. The rounded pieces, just cut out 2 little rectangles using your X-Acto blade or whatever you use to cut with. And then I also used my X-Acto blade to indent the little cuffs on his shirt near the top of his shoulders. These are the top of his arms, his forearms, I think is what it's called, or his biceps is a better word. Then I just placed them onto the body. You can go ahead and glue those on. And then next we're going to go on to the lower half of his arms, which will be these 2 balls. Do a similar thing, roll them out, but don't cut these in half. You're just going to cut off the tips of the pointed end and then cut the other ends into a rectangular shape so they fit together like a puzzle piece. Then go ahead and stick it on the body. If it's too long or too short, you might have to resize it. Mine was too long, so I kept cutting it as I go. You'll notice his arm is getting shorter and shorter. Next, we're going on to the tan color, which I washed my hands again. I have really dry skin. And I pre-rolled the balls that I would need. And we're going to start with his head, so that's going to be this ball right here at the top with another blurry photo. I normally do just a teardrop shape for the head, but his head's more like an oval rectangle shape like this. So just do like you would with a teardrop, but don't point it out so much. Then near the more narrow end, just press it against your work surface kind of angled because he has a really angled chin. And then I just stuck it on the toothpick, making sure everything looks nice and symmetrical. Next, we're going to move on to the next ball. That'll be this one right down here at the bottom. And this is going to be his apron, so we're going to take our rolling blade and roll it out nice and flat. Make sure it's as thin as you can possibly get it without it falling apart. And then you're going to want to cut it into a rhombus kind of shape, where it's flat on the top and the bottom, but slightly angled on the sides. Then using one of these scrap pieces at the top, I just cut a little square out. And that's just going to make his little pocket. You could be more extra and make the tools that go in his pocket, but ain't nobody got time for that. This took a week to do. I don't have time to do every little detail, but I still think he looks wonderful. Then I stuck the apron on by taking the arms off because obviously I didn't want to, don't glue the bottom parts of the arm. This would be easier. Then I went on ahead and glued his torso to the toothpick. And this is just a little side view so you can see how the toothpick is in his body and glued nice and tight in place. And then now we're going on to the other balls. We're going to use the ones near the top, the smaller ones. Oh, I'm all out of sorts. These ones you're going to just press flat with your rolling tool, and then you're going to cut them about in half. These little rounded pieces you can keep, the other two pieces put back in the pack. The two semicircles, just put them on the side of his head for his ears. Next, we're going to go on to these other two beige balls, tan balls, not beige, my god. Roll them into long teardrop shapes. Then press the tops of them down so that they're flat on the tops. These are the hands, so we only need the top. And once you press them down, they should look something like this. Maybe a little less blurry on your end. And then you're going to cut them off to where you only need the hand part, so cut off a good bit like I did. Then to make the fingers, which I don't do anatomically correct or correct for the game, I just do 3 because it's easy. And I just cut 2 little triangles into both the hands. Easy. And then after that, I cut the one hand, his left hand I think it is, at an angle. And then I also cut the cuff length of his sleeve at an angle, so that his hand could kind of sit flat on the floor, like his arm could be beside him, like this. It makes sense, trust me. It just fits together like a puzzle piece. Everything is angled, just locks together. Next, I put his other hand on and his other arm on. I didn't glue these parts together yet. We can do that later. Now we're going to go on to his face. I used a dotting tool to indent holes for the eye sockets and my X-Acto blade for the mouth. I did make his mouth too long. You'll see me adjust that later. Now we're going back to these black balls we didn't use earlier. This one at the top is going to be his curly Q hair, and we're just going to turn it into a teardrop shape and then just curl that teardrop shape and stick it on his head. Voila! Next we're going to move on to the biggest ball we had right there, and this is going to be the back of his hair. So you're going to want to roll this out into a nice long rectangular kind of shape and flatten it out, just like this. And then you want to cut it into a perfect rectangle using a long blade or whatever you have. I know this looks like a derp face, but it's not supposed to be a derp face. And then just stick it on the back of his head, kind of lining it up with his ears. Once you're done with that, we can move on to the last 2 black balls we had pre-rolled. These are going to be his sideburns. So you're going to take these balls and you're going to roll them into very narrow teardrop shapes, very thin and narrow. As you can see, they're an inch in length. And then I pressed them down very gently with my fingers so that they'd be flatter to fit onto his head. And once you press them down, oh, ow, sinuses, jeez. They should look something like this. And then we don't need them round at the top, we need them flat, so you're just going to cut off the top little bits. As you can see, I cut off about a good chunk of the inch, an 1/8 an inch. I'm very bad with measurements, a 1/16 of an inch. Either way, and then I bended each one into this kind of curvy S shape so that it goes around the ear and over the ear, as you can see here. And then I did the same thing for the other side, but curling it the other way so it fits around that ear. And that's what we have so far. Now we're going to be a little repetitive with some of the colors. We're going back to the white color clay because we need to make his eyeballs. I was going to do diamond eyes, but I realized with the other characters I didn't do diamond eyes, so I wanted the whole thing to be cohesive. I rolled out 2 teeny tiny balls and stuck them into the eye sockets. They can actually have a little bit of gap of room because his eye sockets are more sunken. So this is fine in this case. Normally I wouldn't do it like that though. Now, like I talked about earlier, we're going back to the black clay for the delicate features. 2 small balls rolled out into 2 very thin, narrow teardrop shapes. Stick them together and curl them makes a mustache. Similar to how you did the hair, but just very more delicate, so be very careful. Then for his glasses, I just took a really thin, small piece of clay and bent it into a C shape and put it on his face. As you can see, I realized his mouth was too big and I kind of moved everything down. That was my mistake. Now we're repetitively going back to the orange. Roll out 2 even smaller balls, and you're going to want to flatten these out for his glasses. So I just booped them with the X-Acto blade. And then right where we made that C shape, just stick one on the left and one on the right. So it should look something like this. Sorry, my sinuses are killing me. And next, you can see where I messed up and the mouth was too big. I just took my blending tool and blended those lines out so that it's not noticeable. Next, I took my X-Acto blade and roughed them up a little bit, cut some slits and stuff, and it's a little texture. Then I also used my X-Acto blade to cut lines into the bottom of the soles of the shoes. Next, we're going to fight with pastels again, and I'm going to use chalk pastels but mix it with water this time, very little bit of water. I put the water in one side, the chalk on the other side, and I kind of mixed them as I went, very sparingly on the water because water and clay are not friends. After I brushed it all on, I just brushed some of it off with a paper towel and a cotton swab, and then I baked it for 350 degrees for 12 minutes. And then while it was baking, I went on ahead and did the design on the wooden base that I wanted with a pencil, and then I used black acrylic paint to paint on the design. And it looks like this. And then while that's drying, your sculpture should be about to come out the oven, and once it's dried and cooled off completely, you can go ahead and take your dotting tool and take some black paint to paint on his eyes, and paint on the eyelids around the eyes. I know his eyes look really squinty, but trust me, he has these dark rings under his eyes, in the eyes, and over, and his eyes don't look as even because he's kind of looking to the side. Next, I went on to the gold, and I'm going to use that for his buttons, and I also dotted 2 gold dots on the legs because he has joints on the legs. Use a reference photo if you don't know what I'm talking about. Once that all is dry, I used E6000 to glue him down to the wooden base, and then I glazed him with polyacrylic floor varnish. And then you guys are done. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this, and I will see you in my next week video. Bye-bye, my bunnies.